The first Saturday in May is always a tradition. It is the time-honored tradition as we celebrate the start of spring, the start of really, truly the summer season starts. But a tradition that's been going on for 151 years begins. It's time to break out the mint juleps, time to break out the fancy hats, and it's time to lay it on the line for the Triple Crown. Yes, the 151st running of the Kentucky Derby and the Kentucky Oaks happens this weekend at Churchill Downs in beautiful Louisville, Kentucky. And this is a special edition of All Andy Alfred tonight right here on the All Andy Alfred Podcast Network as we, not just me, a good friend of ours, Lucas Sigurdsson, joins the podcast tonight as we preview the 151st running of the Kentucky Derby and the Kentucky Oaks. You can join us on the podcast anytime, whether it be on Apple Music, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Bleaker, however you listen to the show, wherever you listen to the show. Thank you for giving us the time to get you ready for the biggest horse race of the year. It is truly the start of the Triple Crown begins this Saturday, and it's one of my favorite sporting events. I know Lucas is his favorite sporting event. This is what we wait for almost all year for this big race. And I'm not even going to waste any time. I'm going to welcome in my guest at this time, Lucas Sigurdsson. He writes for Pass the Wire. You still write for PassTheWire.com, am I so correct?
Yes. Yeah.
He still writes for PassTheWire.com.
Good memory.
And he does a fantastic job. He's a good friend of the podcast. We brought him on for the MLB podcast, but his passion is horse racing. And Lucas, welcome into All Andy Alfred again. It's time for the Derby.
Yes, it is, Andy. Thank you for having me. Always love the opportunity to talk some horses with you. So yeah, like you said, it's the beginning of the Triple Crown. Always one of the best weekends of the year. The first Saturday in May, the Run for the Roses. So yeah, I got the Oaks coming up on Friday, then Derby Day Saturday. Ready to roll.
Ready to roll.
Ready to hit some bets.
Ready to roll. It is probably for me. It's the It's the grandeur, the spectacular nature of what this is between with the speed of a horse and its jockey and controlling that beautiful creature for that length. I mean, it's just I absolutely love it. The 1/8 of a mile for the Oaks race and 1/4 of a mile for the Derby. It's absolutely breathtaking to watch, and it's the fastest 2 minutes, they say, in sports. My wife, and this is probably a funny joke, I'm going to say this. My wife says it best. You definitely can tell this is a man's sport because it's the fastest 2 minutes in all of sport. There's a little bit of a joke right there that my wife wanted me to.
Can we quote Amanda Alfred?
Yes, we'll put Amanda Alfred in that quote for that. Lucas,
should put it on a billboard somewhere.
It should be one of those floating billboards.
Wife of Andy Alfred.
Yep, the wife of Andy Alfred, absolutely. Lucas, going into this race, we look to this race and as the start of the Triple Crown. We've seen in the past, the challenges in the past. We saw the first ever challenge of a race, and we've seen the highs and the lows of this race. What does this race mean to you, both the Oaks and the Derby, especially with this being the 151st running? Because I know you were there last year for the 150, and I see that on the hat up at the top right there. So, what does this race mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it started as a kid. My grandpa, he was big into horse racing years ago, when I was growing up. And so he would take me to the harness track with him, periodically. And for me, those are some of my fondest memories, just seeing the horses run around, And, But yeah, I mean the Derby, it's a spectacle. You look forward to it every year. You have diehards who handicap and watch races all year long, and then you have that group, and then you have the group of people who only come around right when it's Derby weekend, just to like, oh, let's just place some bets for fun. Whether it's a $5 bet, a $1 bet, or $100 bet, whatever. It's everybody kind of gets in the action. It's a lot of fun. Obviously, a field with 20 horses, no horse in the field has ever raced in a field of that magnitude, of that size. So that definitely plays a part, in some of the chaos of the Kentucky Derby, where there was a stretch, I think, in like the mid 2000s, there were like 6 years in a row where the favorite won the Derby each of those 6 years in a row. And now you look at the latest, the string we're on now, where just lots of some chaos has ensued. So just it's always I always consider it a wide open field. Anything can happen. No horse is going to get the perfect trip. There's going to be obstacles along the way, and that's part of the spectacle of the race for me. But yeah, I mean, I was there in person for Derby 149 and Derby 150. Both the Derby and the Oaks. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get tickets this year. It was a hot ticket, hard to come by. But yeah, just being there in person, just like it's surreal, and it's something everybody should do at some point in your life. Whether you're a big horse racing fan or not. It's a huge party. It's awesome seeing so many people so dressed up, snazzed up. Put on a suit and tie. And watch the horses run all day. But it's a blast, and I can't wait to get back to Churchill Downs. But this year I'll be watching from a screen somewhere. I think I'm going to Lexington to hang out with my cousin Aaron. He lives in town there. We might go over to Keeneland to their Derby party to watch the Derby from there. But yeah, we're just super excited and ready for the greatest 2 minutes in sports.
Yeah, the quickest 2 minutes in sports will be happening this upcoming Saturday, and it is a spectacle. I've watched it for many many years, and this the last few years I've just really really embraced it, really embraced it into with it being the 150 last year, and the history and the pageantry of this sport. You can't beat it. You really can't beat it. We don't. This is the Super Bowl for horse racing because it just leads into the Triple Crown that we have that basically will take place between Churchill Downs, between Belmont, and then from and well, I forget the second one.
Preakness, the
The
Kentucky
Preakness,
Derby, the Preakness, then the Belmont.
Preakness, and the Belmont. Yeah. So what can we say? What can we do? Well, what we're gonna do. We're gonna talk about it tonight, right here on All Andy Alfred, and we're gonna start first and foremost with the big race that's happening on Friday. Of course, the 3-year-old fillies taking to the course. We're gonna talk about this race a little bit. Now, bear in mind, cards and horses can be withdrawn and taken out. So when this podcast comes out, uh, we'll if we're talking about a horse and they've been withdrawn, check your local, check the Twitter account, our Twitter account on All Andy Alfred, as well as on Facebook, and we can make the readjustments of everything. But so this is what we're looking at on this card for this on this Wednesday night on the 30th of April, going into the race that will be on Friday afternoon. And before we even get into that, I was talking to Lucas off air. Inch and a half of rain on Friday. It's going to be a sloppy mess Friday for the Oaks race. I know, Lucas, we were talking off air about it. It's going to be very very sloppy. Is that going to really it will affect that track on Friday?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that's in the elements, anything can happen, and obviously the Oaks, field of 14 horses. It's a considerably large field. field of horses, and yeah, when the elements kind of come into play, the rain, the slop, how is a horse going to react to that? Has a horse run in the slop in the past? Some horses take a liking to it. Other horses don't seem to react as well to running in the mud or the slop. So it's definitely an angle to keep in mind, an angle to kind of look into when you're placing your wagers. You want to be informed on horses that are you take a liking to conditions like that.
And the
Ironically, I remember. I know
go
we're
ahead.
talking about the Oaks now, but looking back to the Derby last year, um, Mystic Dan, who ended up winning the Kentucky Derby last year, he was a popular, popular play as a horse who had run in the slop and had won in the slop previously.
Mhm.
So kind of like if it rains, like look out for this horse. Thankfully, it didn't end up raining Derby Day last year, but sure enough, lo and behold, Mystic Dan pulls off the run. But just kind of interesting, they're different. You know, there are certain horses who just really take a liking to those conditions and tend to perform well in those conditions. So just something to keep in mind for
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely. Keep in mind with this, and of course, the Kentucky Oaks happening. Like I said, Friday. It's going to be on. It looks like it's going to be on the USA Network for between one. The coverage between 1 p.m. and 6 p.m. The timing of the race, I would say, it looks like it's going to be about 5:51 is the post time for that race on Friday afternoon. So we'll see how the track will shape up as it goes on. But looking at this field, and Lucas did make mention of it, it is a big field for the Kentucky Oaks race, as you have 14 horses in this race, and you know there is a true clear cut pick right now, and I want to get into that really quickly before we get into some of the other horses, and that's the 11 horses is Good Cheer right now, sitting at 6-5 odds right now going into this race. Luis on the mount for this horse. She's uh she's she's from Good Dolphin LLC group right there is running it. If you look at her record, she's 6-0. What can you say about this horse, Lucas? She's 6-0
Yeah,
going into the Oaks race.
she's 6 for 6. She's won on and off track. Off track meaning a track that's conditions are poor. Um, she seems to relish kind of a wet track, so that wouldn't scare me off of Good Cheer, of course, in the Oaks. Louis Saez, one of the best in the business. Brad Cox, he's won the Oaks several times. Yeah, I mean, Good Cheer has done nothing but improve. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm the kind of handicapper or kind of better who tends to fade the favorite just to kind of make it fun, especially in some of these big races.
Yeah,
But she's certainly a worthy favorite and a worthy contender to take the Oaks this year,
yeah.
especially given the weather. Her success in the elements in the past and just her what she's bringing into the race. She's done nothing but improve and
Mm-hmm.
should
She's
be should be in for a good run.
Yeah, and I'm very very interested to see how she's going to perform. Like you said, she's on an off track. So I mean, with that weather conditioning, I think that could and how the betting is looking towards it right now at 6-5 odds. It's showing that the weather is going to play a factor into this race with her doing so well on that off track. What she, in the words of Cosmo Kramer from Seinfeld, she's a mutter. She's a mother is a mutter. So this is a perfect example of that with
Yeah.
this horse. So I mean, the safe play, if you're looking safe, but you're not going to make any money on a 6-5. I will say that. But if you're just placing that, but it's good to it's good to have that horse be there if you need to make the bet. And remember, this is for
Yeah,
educational purposes only when it comes
right.
to.
And one thing that's kind of fun, okay, I really want to bet Good Cheer. You can bet Good Cheer. You're not going to make much on a straight win bet.
Yeah.
but kind of like throw some exotics, throw at the top of some exotic bets, some exactas, some trifectas, superfectas. You just kind of change it up a little bit, or you can do like an exacta bet where you have good cheer on top, to finish first, and then you can do the whole field to finish second.
Yeah.
Kind of get some good odds that come in. Kind of a fun way to look at it.
The other horse right now is by Juan Hernandez. He's going to ride at the 9 horse, which is Tema. Uh, she's good too. 5-0-1. You know, very very strong horse. I like everything. Shire was with Night Quest. Very very good horse from the past derbies. Tell me a little bit about her.
Yeah, I mean, the elephant in the room. Bob Baffert is back at Churchill Downs.
Yeah, I was
You
going to
got to
bring
think
that
he's
up
going to
too.
be could be coming in with a vengeance this year. He has a couple great runners in the Derby, and you got Tenma here. Tenma's another horse to kind of look at on a muddy track. She's ran second in the Spinaway Stakes last summer on a muddy track. So she's had success in those conditions. So another horse to, another factor to take into consideration. I think Juan Hernandez rides a lot of Baffert horses out in California. So they've been a successful duo together, and obviously Baffert, back in at Churchill Downs. So never count on Baffert horse out.
They never counted out,
So
especially
they
with
say.
and so with Baffert back. Do you think he will go out for a vengeance because of this?
Naturally. Look at his track record. Look at his success in big time races. It wasn't too long ago where NBC covered a Derby day. They'd spend 8 hours talking about Bob Baffert. So his his track record speaks for itself. You can say what you want about him. I know there have been lots of issues, and I don't condone a lot of what
What he's done.
he's yeah, I don't condone a lot of the actions that have surrounded Bob Baffert in his barn. But again, he's a successful trainer, and he knows how to win big races, knows how to prep his horses and get them ready to run. So um, can't speak directly to his motives, but I wouldn't be surprised if you'd like to kind of okay check. I'm
Check it
back.
down there that he could be coming back with a vengeance with what has gone in the past. Uh, Looking at some of the other horses, of course, Javier Javier Castellano. Is that what it is? Javier
Yes.
Castellano. Is this right? Is he still going to ride on early on, or has that changed now?
I believe that's changed. I have Edgar Zayas currently riding
That's what I.
early
That's what
on.
I have too. I mean, we've got sheets
It may
going
have
back going
it may
on.
have swapped. I may have them swapped.
Yeah, they
But I
might have swapped because I'm just looking at some of the reports coming in. I'm looking in, and this was updated this morning.
mm,
This is according to
okay.
I'm looking right now at a report from Horse Racing Nation. Okay, this is from Horse Racing Nation. They released the odds from today, and his name came up on the for early on, and I was wondering because I was double checking with you. What is the difference between if you have to change a jockey to a horse? Does that affect that horse going into the race?
There's something to be said about familiarity. A jockey who's ridden a horse in the past, kind of knows the horse's tendencies. I think that's a huge part, and especially if you have, because there are so many implications, based on, just if I'm the jockey, if I know how this horse likes to run, firsthand, not just what Bob Baffert's telling me, not just what Saffy Joseph is telling me,
Mm-hmm.
or not what I'm watching from other riders riding the horse. There's something to be said for the familiarity, especially when it comes to big races with big implications.
And early on set right now at 40-1. So uh
Yeah, early on, I think she's a bit overmatched in this field.
yes.
A couple horses I really want to bring to your attention or bring to the listeners' attention the 10, Take Charge Milady,
Yeah, that's
Kenny
what I was gonna
McPeak
say.
and Brian Hernandez Jr. Obviously, they swept the Oaks and Derby last year. The Oaks with Torpedo Anna. Um, Dangerous duo. I Take Charge Milady. I really like her, especially in the slop. She's been successful there in the past. And then the 14, Quiet Side. Jose Ortiz, John Ortiz trainer.
Yeah,
She's been top three in all 7 of her races. I think she's going to be. I think she'll take a lot of money. She could end up being the second favorite behind Good Cheer. I think Lucara, Dylan Davis, Mark Cassidy will take a lot of money as well. Um, and then finally, I read Ortiz Jr. I say what you
I,
want. A lot of people think he's overrated. A lot of people, it's like he's a very polarizing jockey, but he's won some big races, and so definitely a horse to keep an eye on. The 3
yeah,
finally.
yeah. That would be a horse to watch out for too. I mean, you also have the 7, owned by Tracy Farmer and La Carrera. She's 6-1, riding with Dylan Davis. Street Sense is her sire. I mean, she's 4-2 overall in lifetime, 2-1 overall in her runs. She's she's decent in the mud. I've watched a couple of her races. She's decent. But if it's sloppy, like I think, I don't think she's got a really good chance. What do you say on that?
Yeah, I mean it's honestly it's kind of a toss up. With a lot of it just depends on how the conditions kind of fare out as the day goes on. But definitely, you're you're worried about betting the Oaks. Earlier in the day, kind of watch some of the races beforehand. Earlier on the card, just
Uh-huh.
kind of see how the races are going. See what the pace is like.
Yeah. So I mean,
See if it's quick pace, if they're more moderate. Just kind of helps inform how you want to look at betting the Oaks. Obviously, a lot of people bet on the Oaks, so just
yeah.
kind of
I mean,
inform some of your bets.
it's the precursor to the Derby, and I really enjoyed the Oaks race. I enjoyed the Oaks, the Old Forester, and the Derby. All 3 of those races together. And one of the things I noticed this year is you can do the pick 3 on both the Oaks, Old Forester, and the Derby. So I'm
Hmm.
interested in seeing how that's going to shake out for a pick 3 for this year. So there's that. I mean,
There you go. Good luck to you.
there's that. Um, so let's build it. Let's look at this Oaks race. Where do we see? Uh, let's build a trifecta or an exacta for this race for our listeners and our viewers tonight. What do you see, Lucas, into this race?
Ooh, that's tough. I mean, I'm definitely. I mean, I'm keying in on the 10, Take Charge, My Lady, the 11, Good Cheer, 14, Quiet Side, and little kind of like sneaky under the radar, the 13, Bless the Broken. Obviously, 30-1 morning line odds. Johnny V, John Velasquez. He's a big time race jockey.
Yeah,
Um, he's a professional. He's been around, a long time now. I never doubt him in the big races. Kind of an underdog story if less the broken. Definitely a horse to keep an eye on. Just looking at some exotic bets, swinging in on the back of a trifecta.
yeah.
Never know what could happen.
I
The
never know.
5, Quick Kick, Umberto Rispoli. I really like Tom Amos, the trainer.
Yeah,
Kind of a interesting horse, like more of a long shot, but kind of like races like this, like the Oaks and the Derby. Like we've said, anything can really happen. So it's definitely does tends to do yourself good to not pigeonhole yourself and just keying in on the favorite, the 1 or 2 favorites, kind of like kind of spread some money around a little bit.
yeah.
And then
What do you
Ballerina
feel? How
Dioro
do you
the
feel about?
6.
Well, go ahead.
I was just going to say Ballerina Dioro the 6, Chad Brown horse,
Yeah,
Flavian Pratt, arguably my favorite jockey. 10-1 morning line. I think she's in a good post position right there in the middle. Kind of has the ability to kind of like see how she's feeling, getting out of the gate, and hopefully clean break out of the gate. Um, just another horse to keep an eye on. There's a lot of interesting runners here.
Yeah.
So I mean, a good cheer, obviously 6 for 6. Very talented horse and can easily take it, but um, yeah. So kind of, and then gosh, I didn't even mention 10 by the 9, the Baffert horse. I'll definitely be keying her into some bets as well. So kind of
Yeah.
sprinkling around a group of
Sprinkling
horses
around,
here. I'm liking, yeah.
sprinkling around to see what happens and see who's
I
there.
think I'm a bit more selective with the Derby than I am with the Oaks, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it's and it all depends for me. And you said it right. You said it best. It all depends to me about how the track is going to look through those
Mhm.
preliminary races. As if this track is very very sloppy, as what they're calling for an inch and a half of rain in or around the Twin Spires. I just think it's going to be a sloppy Oaks race. It turns into what the big race will be, and that's where we're going to next,
And
right here.
as of right now, I not to sound the alarms, but Louisville Friday 70% chance of thunderstorms, Saturday 85% chance of rain.
So we're looking at basically a Derby and an Oaks that's going to be soaking wet.
More so early, more so Saturday, more so early in the day than later, but still looks
So
like a decent chance of rain. So selfishly, maybe I'm glad I'm not there this year.
you got lucky.
But
You got lucky. This,
but yeah, that's just very interesting now that we're talking about these races. So
yeah, absolutely. So now we get into it. Now it is time to talk about the
who
151st run
well who
of
are
the.
who are you keying in on for the Oaks?
Oh, for the Oaks, for me, I mean, good cheer. I'll probably be sprinkling something into that too. The 9. I mean, like you mentioned, Bob Baffert back in the old Kentucky home, back, and that could be a surprise. To me, what gets me, I like Quiet Side. You brought that attention to me. I was very very interested in seeing. I like Jose Ortiz. I like him. He's got the pedigree to do it. Um, if I had to, I like the 8 horse in 5G.
Hmm.
Matty Franco, can't go wrong with it. Bacoma was his sire. George Weaver is the trainer. 2-1 this year. But it just depends for me on how the weather's going to be for this race. It really
Yeah.
is. I'm being completely honest with you here, because if it's sloppy, a lot of the bettors, including probably myself, are going to be probably just sticking to their guns and sticking to what the favorites are going to be between those 3 horses, between cheer between good cheer and 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 I just and Tema, and I think it's going to be interesting. I don't think, and I can probably will take this to the bank. I don't think Quick Kick is going to do much. Unfortunately, she hasn't run at all in 2025. She was 1-1-2 in 2024. Uh, Umberto is going to be riding her in this race. I, I'm going to stick with my bet. I will stick if I have to make the trifecta for me. I'm gonna do, and I'll do a trifecta and super trifecta. I'll pair it with 11, 9. I'll do 11, 9, 10, 11, 9. I'm writing this down. 10, and give me the 7.
Okay.
If I do trifecta, it will probably be 11. 9, 10, and then if it's the super, then I'll just do 11, 9, 10, and 7. So,
Okay. I'll do a superfecta. I'm gonna go a little exotic here. I'm gonna take the 14 quiet side.
okay.
I'm gonna go quiet side over good cheer in second. We're gonna do Tenma third, take charge Milady fourth.
Okay.
14, 11, 9, 10.
14, 11, 10. Okay. Got that all written down here. Now remember, this is for educational purposes only, children. Don't call your bookie. I mean,
Don't listen
please
to my bets.
don't listen to our bets. And if you pick any of those horses and you win something, just let us know, because post it on the Twitter, post it on our Facebook, post it on YouTube. But yeah, this now takes us into the big dance. The 151st running of the Kentucky Derby, presented by Woodford Reserve. Lucas, this is a big field. I when I found out it was 20, I was like, I told my dad, it's like, how many horses are in the field? He said 20. 20? How 20? He was shocked. I said, I know it's a big field, but there's so much depth in this field. There really is. And the amount of everything happening in this race, like you mentioned, Bob Baffert back into the saddle again for this race. And to me, the opening lines are out for the opening line came out, and we're gonna break it into it. We're gonna go right into it. It's now a big odds right now, sitting for journalism, sitting at 3-1 odds going into this race. I watched the ending of the Santa Anita. I watched that race. It was available on Peacock. I watched that race. For how this horse came back at the top of the stretch to just honestly come through, it kind of scared me. It kind of scared me that this horse could possibly be definitely a Derby winner. And the amount of that he had, Umberto is going to be riding on him. Michael McCarthy, very, very good. Curlin being the sire of this horse, I'm just going to say it right now. Is he really, truly that favorite in this race, Lucas?
Well, I mean, with Curlin, the distance won't be a problem or shouldn't be a problem. Um, Michael McCarthy angle, I love Michael McCarthy. I selfishly, I zeroed in on his horse Rombauer in the 20, gosh, was it 2022 Preakness?
Yeah.
That was my, yeah, that was my, it was his first big runner. I zeroed in on Rombauer and that Preakness run. I journalism. I mean, this will be his third start of the year. So he may have not run his best race yet. Obviously he's a deserving favorite, kind of that stalker running style. He doesn't want to be out on the lead. Kind of that running style is great for kind of chasing down the early speed as the early speed starts to tail off a little bit. Um, he'll settle in early mid pack before making his run. Can he do it? Certainly. I mean, chances there. But again, I keep going back to it's such a big field, 20 horses. No horse is going to get the perfect trip. And he's running some smaller fields. I mean, how is he going to take to a 20 horse field? So I don't know. Just worthy favorite, not knocking him at all, but just it'd be interesting to see where he's at, see how low he gets come post time.
Come post
And
time, it's
for me, Umberto Rispoli, can he do it? Can he do it in this moment? I mean, in my humble opinion, I'm not an expert. But, I think he's maybe a tier below the some of the top of the line jockeys in this field. So, can he pull it off? We'll see.
And see, we'll absolutely see. I mean, he, like I said, there are they he is, that horse is the overall favorite right now. Just checking really quickly on the line now, it's at 4-1 now. It was at 3-1. Now it's to 4-1. So that is the current odds as we're on the podcast tonight. Um, I have a horse that I am very very interested in your opinion on. I've
Okay.
looked at this horse and I've actually watched a couple of watched the tape. I like American Promise at 5. Justified, Sarah, you know, Nick Juarez, sitting there. Lucas Wayne, right there,
D.
setting
Wayne
that.
Lucas.
D. Wayne Lucas. D. Wayne
Lucas
Lucas.
Wayne.
My
What do you?
apologies. I was looking at
D.
how this
Wayne.
is said on the damn sheet. I
Lucas
apologize,
Wayne.
Lucas. But American Promise sitting was sitting early this week at 30-1 odds. His odds now went to 9-1. Going into
American
today's
Promise is at 9-1.
9-1. 9-1. Now
Wow, I love hearing that because there's going to be some incredible value.
that is, I'm looking right now on
Incredible value outside of that is not incredible value on American Promise in my opinion.
really going from 30-1 to 9-1. That kind of scares me a little bit. But this horse,
That
very
is
very
wow,
good.
I didn't that is interesting. I did not get that coming.
I couldn't believe it when
So
I saw it too. I was like, I got the paperwork. I was like, oh, it's 30-1, and then they updated it today, and it's now at 9-1 odds in this horse. And I like
he's
this.
made
I
he's
like
made
this horse.
9 starts in his career. That's the
Yeah,
most in this field, so he's very experienced.
yeah,
I think for American Promise, he needs to be quick out of the gate to kind of secure leading position or position kind of in the top, in that top group, in the field getting out. Um, I mean the 5 hole, it's kind of a good place to be, I guess. I mean it's a little inside where it's like the field starts to like cram in towards the inside there early. Can get a little crowded, but I don't know, just something to keep in mind. But American Promise is not a horse I'm too keen on at this stage. That can change.
yeah,
Um, but Nick Juarez, kind of an unproven jockey.
yeah. He's 0-1 in his 2 races so far this year. 0-1. So I could it be the time? Could it be the time for him to come out with this horse? I don't know. I looked at when I was looking at all of the 20 horses, that was the one that surprised me. And with the pedigree that has Justify into it,
Mm.
kind of the last true Triple Crown winner, can it really step up to the plate and continue the legacy that is Justified? That was what I got out of it. Uh, what do you look what are you looking towards in this race when it comes to the 20 horse field? What is one horse that we need to keep really a true eye on besides all the other favorites that are in there? I mean, I know
Gosh,
you
I mean there's so many. Are we skipping right to the chase here? Are we going
no
going right
we
down
can,
to who?
I've got a couple other ones. The
Give me
publishers are
give me
pretty
another one. Give me another one you're interested in. We'll see if
publishers
we
another
match up anywhere. See if we're reading each other's mail.
publisher is pretty good at the 13 for me. Iran Ortiz Jr. right there. American Pharaoh is the sire to that horse. It hasn't had a winning record it's 0-1 this year. It's got its lifetime races is 0-2 3 so far in this run, but I like
You just
Iran
mentioned it.
Ortiz.
You just mentioned the most important statistic when it comes to publisher.
Okay.
He is a rare maiden in the Kentucky Derby. A
Yes.
maiden, a horse who has never won, has not won the Kentucky Derby since 1933.
Wow.
And to follow that up, his trainer, Steve Asmussen, the famed most winning American trainer in thoroughbred racing, has never won a Kentucky Derby.
Hmm.
So you got two little historical
Nuggets.
nuggets stacked, perhaps possibly stacked against Publisher in
Yeah.
this race.
But I mean, the American Pharoah side of things, I look at that. It's been 10 years since American Pharoah has won the Kentucky Derby,
Crazy.
and I know when I saw that, I was like, man, I remember that was yesterday. So so
Who
that.
else are you interested in this field?
Well, of course, the monkey in the room, of course, is the two Japanese horses. You have Admire Daytona and Luxor Cafe sitting there at 6 and 7 in post position. Luxor Cafe, another one that's sire from American Pharoah. Uh, I, do you think it's the year this year for the Japanese horses?
I Not to show my cards early. I'm very, very high on Luxor Cafe this year.
Wow.
Um, I mean, ran 6 times in Japan. He's coming off 4 wins in a row. He's been the favorite in each of his runs. Obviously, the son of American Pharaoh. Some people are wondering, is he the Japanese Pharaoh? He has the pedigree. Uh, What's really interesting about Luxor Cafe, he's won races in fields of 16, 14, 10, and 11. You're talking about a 16 horse field. The Kentucky Derby. None of these horses have ran in a 20 horse field before. Okay, that's known. That's a fact. 16 horses. That's pretty dang close.
Yes.
I mean, in a big field like that, like things can get really crowded and horses can lose their perfect trips. Just kind of one thing to keep in mind. And then Joao Moreira, his jockey, one of the top jockeys in the world. He's won over 2,500 races in his career.
Okay.
Um, just kind of, or nearly 2,500, I think, is just under. Um, just kind of interesting, it kind of has that press the pace stalker running style, which tends to, well, which I think will work well in this field. Hopefully, some of the rain dissipates a little bit, so we can get like some really true. Yeah, I'd like to see some blazing speed figures, um, or at least not, if not blazing, at least like pretty, just moving pretty quickly out
Yeah.
of the gate, um, to kind of set up his run. But just I'm a big, I just have a I just have a weird feeling about this horse. Last year obviously was the closest Japan's gotten to taking a Derby. Um, yeah, I mean, Forever Young just losing by a nose.
Yeah.
Such a great horse, and so it's the Japanese conglomerate. They've gotten closer and closer each year, it seems. Um, so I think it's inevitable at some point they're going to capture their Derby. And I think Admire Daytona and Luxor Cafe are two great opportunities this year, particularly Luxor Cafe. Last year you had Forever Young second and T.O. Password, kind of a long shot, ended up finishing fifth. He clawed
Yes.
off a lot of horses coming down the backstretch and came in fifth. So second and fifth are the Japanese conglomerate last year. I mean, that's um, pretty, pretty stellar showing, I would say. Um, so yeah, I mean, Luxor Cafe, I'm extremely interested in. The
Okay.
other the other Japanese horse admired Daytona. He won the United Arab Emirates Derby with a 108 equibase speed figure. Um, pretty impressive showing there. What's kind of interesting, so Forever Young won the United Arab Emirates Derby prior to appearing in last year's Kentucky Derby. So, um, I how Amara Daytona and Forever Young kind of compare to each other. I guess I don't have an educated response to that question. But Christophe Lemaire, obviously a decorated international jockey. The one thing that kind of is working against Amara Daytona here is he's more of a pace setter style. He's going to want to get out of the gate quick, kind of get towards the front, and at this distance, in this field, this size of field, I can see him kind of running out of steam as the race goes on. So I think he'll be quick out of the gate. Will he hang around? It's kind of a question mark for me.
Okay, okay, great. That I mean, I was when that came when Luxor Cafe came out, I was kind of on the fence with that horse, and then now you've talked me into this horse a little bit more. And I agree. I think it's going to happen. Could it happen this year? Could it be next year? I think we're going to see the Japanese finally get in and win the Derby, and that's going to be the shocker of it all. I think, in my opinion, because everybody has been talking about, well, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen, and the performance that they had last year at the Derby, to then what they have in the field this year, the possibility is there. It's strong. It's even better this year than it was last year for them to finally get into the winner's circle. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's going to happen at some point. So I would be very ecstatic to see that happen this year.
Okay. I have another one for you. Of course, the big story. One of the big stories is that sitting at 15 is Rendered Judgment, which is a horse that was owned by Toby Keith, the late Toby Keith. That's going to be one of those things that people are going to be drawn to. In that, is there any value truly to Render the Judgment, who's sitting right now at 14 to 1 odds?
Uh, I, for me personally, no. I think this horse is overmatched in this field. Obviously, he'll tug at the heartstrings. Lots of Toby Keith fans out there. Rest in peace, Toby. Um, he'll take some money just from that angle. But he has low speed figures. I don't see it. I don't see it in this field.
Okay.
I
I
mean, he's more of a closer style, so he could, kind of pick off some horses as they start to tail off. So he could sneak into a back of a super high five,
Okay.
if I had to pick a spot for him. But again, I think he's a bit overmatched here.
The second horse that is the favorite in this Kentucky Derby is Sandman. That sits at post 17 right now, sitting at a 5 to 1 odds in this horse. Uh, Jose Ortiz in on this. Tappet is sire. He's 1-1-1 in 2025. He's had 8 races in his lifetime. He's 3-1-2. Uh, I think this horse is. I think he's gonna be. He is one of the second. He is the second favorite going into Saturday. What can you tell us a little bit about Sandman?
Yeah, I really like Sandman. He won the Arkansas Derby after a sizzling pace was set. He's a deep closer style. He wants to come off the pace. He wants to storm back down the stretch. As a deep closer, he's going to need a solid pace to close into. So for his sake, maybe hopefully some of the rain will dissipate. Kind of get some early speed really rolling in this race. Um, just with his style, like you kind of need some things in place for you to really get your run. You need some speed to close into to kind of chase down the some horses that are starting to taper off as you get to the top of the stretch. The one I'm surprised you didn't mention it. The one issue working against Sandman here, and I really like Sandman, I really do. The 17 post has the horse has never won the Kentucky Derby come out of post 17.
Oof.
So just it's it's one of those weird like historical nuggets. Those like if you're into conspiracies or not I forget, I don't know the term I'm looking for, but just
Conspiracy
kind of
theory.
yeah, one of those theories. It's just you're playing with weird history nuggets here. So
Yeah.
it could be some bad juju for Sandman in the post 17. But I'd be remiss if I didn't mention because this is one of my favorite theories in all of horse racing. Gray horse on a cloudy day. I
I was gonna just say that. I was just gonna.
it's tried and true. I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen before, and I've bet on horses specifically in that notion. Oh, is it cloudy there? Okay, I'm betting this gray. And you
especially
have
if it's
two
the
in this
call for
field.
rain.
You have two grays in this field. You have Sandman in the 17, and you have Final Gambit, the 3 horse.
Yeah, we want to talk about Final Gambit. That was one of my next horses actually to dive into. Uh, Sire of Not This Time. He is 2-1 overall in 2025. He's had 4 races in his lifetime. Uh, he came off the stakes race that he just had. Uh, how do you feel about Final Gambit?
Yeah, definitely more. He's definitely another closer. We're just talking about Sandman. Um, he loves coming from last or close to last. So if he gets rolling without traffic trouble, I mean that could be fun to watch. Interesting. I mean, in the 3, he's gonna drop back. He doesn't want to be in that early group of just everyone trying to storm down towards the rail. He's gonna drop back. Probably Luan Machado kind of move him outside. I would bet, kind of like just get away from the traffic, kind of like run his race, and then start picking him off late. Um, he won the Jeff Ruby Stakes on March 22nd.
Mm-hmm.
Prior Jeff Ruby Stakes or winners: 2011 Derby winner Animal Kingdom, 2022 Derby winner Rich Strike, and 2023 runner-up Two Fills. So just
That's
kind
all.
of interesting. I think the just kind of interesting historical data there. Potential flaw: Final Gambit kind of moves like a turf horse. Last year, if you recall, Endlessly was he was a
Yeah,
Michael McCarthy horse, yeah, in Derby. Famous story, kind of like the typical, like the trainer was kind of like keen on moving him away from the moving endlessly off the Derby trail, more of a turf horse. The owners saw the opportunity to run in the Derby. Okay, yeah, we want to run to the Derby. Like, this is our opportunity. Obviously didn't go well for endlessly in that race. Um, so I guess, like, worst case scenario, Final Gambit is another endlessly where just doesn't move like a dirt horse. Just kind of has more of a turf style
yeah.
meant for turf. Um,
Well,
hasn't raced on dirt yet either, so kind of an unknown. Like, you don't know how he's going to react, and if it's sloppy, if it's a wet track, that's even more because that's kickback. It's a lot
yeah,
of kickback in his face. So just something to keep. I like the horse a lot. I really do. Brad Cox, he wouldn't be running him here. I don't believe he would be running him here if he didn't think he had a chance.
mhm.
But just a couple things that could be working against him in this race.
Yeah, absolutely. And we talked about the elephant in the room and Bob Baffert. He's got 2 horses in this Derby race. One at the 4 position, which is Rodriguez, and then you have Citizen Bull at 1 at post position 1. Citizen Bull, as of right now, sitting at 15-1 odds. Rodriguez sitting at 10-1 odds as of this afternoon's betting lines. Baffert back in the Derby again, like we mentioned before. This is first time back. Citizen Bull 1-0 so far in 2025. Career has 6 races. He's 4-0-1. And then if you look at Rodriguez has 5 lifetime races, 2-2-1. And this year they had 4 races at 2-1-1. He rode in the Woodford Memorial. Rodriguez did, and Mike Smith on Rodriguez. Lucas, Baffert back in the run. He gets position 4 and 1. What's your take on both these horses?
Yeah, Citizen Bowl, obviously the one, a really tricky post to be in. It's gotten better since they moved, they kind of switched up a little bit where, like, it used to be the one horse would have to, like, dig over right away to
Yeah,
avoid the rail. So it hasn't been as drastic in recent years. Um, with that said, all 3 of his wins around 2 turns were earned leading from start to finish. He wired the field in all 3 of his 2-turn wins. So he would have to be very fast out of post 1, to get to the lead. I my fear is that he's not fast enough, or break has a bad break, whatever, gets shuffled back and never gets in that forward position that he really wants. If you recall last year, Dornick,
Yep.
he was the number one. He was a pace setter type horse. He wanted to be out on the lead. Obviously, didn't get out on the lead. Got shuffled back and never got to make his run. Just wasn't in the comfortable running style for him. I fear that could be the same with Citizen Bowl. Great horse, talented horse, should be able to get the distance, no problem. I just wonder how the race will set up for him. If he were a bit more on the outside, I think it'd be a different story. I just worry about him breaking out of that one and getting where he wants to go quickly. And
Okay.
the same can kind of be said for Rodriguez. He also wants to press the pace. He wants to kind of be a pace setter towards the front. So he's kind of with that need the lead running style. He needs a quick break. If it's a bad jump out of the gate for Citizen Bowl or Rodriguez, it could prove to be too challenging to overcome for either horse. With that said, these are Baffert horses, and he's going to get them ready to run. Baffert, coming in, wants to, the vengeance, the revenge, the revenge tour. But yeah, just with their early pace styles, they're going to need to get out quickly.
Yeah. I mean, that's how. So you're saying if they get out to the lead, watch out. They could run it wire to wire. Do you think with these
Uh,
either of these
it's
horses?
certainly possible. I mean, it's certainly possible. I mean, yeah, I mean the running along the inside, that's the rail. That's the shortest way around the track. So a lot of
Yep.
that's kind of a just I a lot of horses or jockeys will typically try to gravitate towards the rail just to kind of get that after the big early crowd kind of breaks up a little bit, to kind of get that shortest trip around. But yeah, I mean they're both great horses. If I mean uh, based on what we're looking at, I guess I might lean slightly more towards Rodriguez.
With Mike Smith, I like Mike Smith a lot.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Mike Smith, he's been here, but been there, done that. So yeah, I mean, I can see a world where either horse somehow pulls this off, but I think it's all dependent on them getting out of the gate smoothly.
Of course. One other horse also is sitting at the 14th position, which is Tastic. His the law, sire. Rosario, Joel Rosario, sitting right now. I would say sitting at 18. He's sitting at 18-1 odds right now. He was in the Louisiana Derby. Am I correct? That's where he was at. Was
Yes, that was his last race on March 22nd,
okay.
which I think what could be working against him is, he hasn't ran in 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Compared to some other horses in this field who've ran in the last like 4 to 5 weeks,
Hmm.
is Tistastic gonna be? Is he gonna be in like top form? Is he gonna be in good racing condition? Just kind of a little not. It's not a layoff, but just like a little more time since his last race. Like
Yeah.
he's gonna be a little slow coming out, and then just like his postmate in the 13 publisher, Steve Asmussen has never won a Derby.
Yeah.
I just kind of just those like the little factual things that I kind of look at, kind of find little like where my interest lies, and kind of
Yeah.
like finding little historical angles to obsess over.
Yeah. What other horses should we be looking at towards this Derby? I know Sovereignty at 18 is interesting. Uh, I think that's another horse to look out for in this race. But what other horse do you have?
Yeah, I mean Sovereignty. He's gonna be one of the top bet horses in this field. He has a strong kick, very beneficial in a race like the Derby. When other horses tire off, he's still going.
Yeah.
So the stamina, he definitely has the stamina.
He did really well. He did very well in the Florida Derby. I will say
Yeah, I
that.
mean he accelerates quickly, so
Yeah.
he's a dangerous horse. If he
Mhm.
can avoid a traffic jam, he can be a tantalizing for sure.
Yeah.
Let's see. Looking at all my notes here to see who haven't we discussed yet. One horse to kind of, going back to the Johnny Velasquez, the 10 Grande, for
Okay.
Todd Pletcher. Uh, it is in last month's Wood Memorial. He closed from seventh to finish in second.
Okay.
He's a stalker style. Kind of bit off a lot of horses there towards the end. And as a son of Curlin, the distance should not be a problem for him.
Hmm.
He could be a significant factor in the late stages. Um, Looking back to 2017, Todd Pletcher won the Kentucky Derby with Always Dreaming. So he has had success in this race before. Grande is kind of an interesting horse for me at 21 morning line. I don't know what he's at right now, but just something.
The Grande, you said, sitting right now at 19 to 1 odds.
19. Okay. I mean, that's to me, that's a good horse to kind of include in exotics, because I think he'll be coming on strong late.
Surprising to me is Burnham Square. Opening lines for him were set at 12 to 1. That's now moved to 23 to 1 odds. That's
Yeah,
another.
he won the Bluegrass Stakes last month.
Yeah.
Um, Beat East Avenue by a nose. Um, he need a big improvement here, closing style,
Yeah.
which I again like the closers will be set up best if there's a quick pace in this field. So kind of the closers, I bet they're kind of hoping for some speed for sure.
Exactly.
Brian Hernandez Jr. This is his mount this year. Obviously, he won the Derby last year on Mystic Dan, so he
Yep.
he knows how to do it. He knows how to win a Derby.
Yep.
Um, and post nine, that's not that not too wide. You can still kind of figure out which way he wants to go.
Mm.
Once the bell toll
Once the gates open.
once the gates open.
Okay. Okay. Any other horses that we should be taking a look at?
Let's see. I feel like there's at least one more here. Let's
I've
do
noticed that
so
there's.
the
Go ahead.
16 Cole Battle.
Yeah,
Juan
I was.
Vargas, Lonnie Briley, the trainer. This is this year's so-called Cinderella horse. I who was Larry Demerett had a horse last year in last year's Derby. He was kind of the Cinderella. Gosh. Ooh, I can't recall who that was. I don't know. I won't be able to find it quickly. I mean, Cole Battle, he's 5 for 6 on dirt. The added distance could be a challenge for him,
Hmm.
but he's competitive. He's versatile. He's proven he can win in a lot of different ways, and he's going to warm the hearts of many on Derby Day. So
He
kind of
also
a
did
kind of
well
a
in the
fun
Arkansas.
story.
Did do well in the Arkansas Derby. I will say that. Did
Yeah,
do.
he's a battler. He's a grinder.
Yeah.
He's a fun horse. He's gonna take some sentimental money for sure.
Colt
But
Battle
hopefully,
right now sitting at 33 to 1
oh,
odds.
perfect.
Opening line
That'll
for him
look
was
that'll
at
look
30
great
to
in
1.
a trifecta superfecta.
There you go. Make some money off of that. So there is. I think we covered most of the horses. Um, I noticed that there's a couple horses that are owned by Go Dolphin
Godolphin.
LLC. Yeah, this year I just noticed that when I was looking at it. They have Sovereignty at 18, and uh East Avenue at 12. And East Avenue did well in the bluegrass. Bluegrass. He's 2-1 overall. Manuel Franco riding him in this race, and
Yeah, he's a pace setter. I think he's going to be on the lead. I think if I had to pick one of
you
the pace setters to kind of zip out to the lead, I think I'm he will be out there for sure.
okay, perfect.
But will hold up? Kind of you get on the lead. start the Derby. That's great. Can you stay there? Will you tire? Um,
Yeah,
he won the Breeder Futurity, so he wired the field in that race. So he's done it
mhm.
before.
He's done it before, and his record so far, lifetime, he's 2-1-0. He's 0-1-0 for the 2025. So we'll see how he's gonna run. And like I said, it all depends too. Like I said, it goes back to what we were talking about in the Oaks race. It's talking about this, the weather conditions, as well as what the pacing of the track is going to be like. Me and Lucas are going to be watching this all Saturday basically to see how this is all going to shake out, because the early races are going to tell what the main card is going to look like. I mean, of course you have the turf race that's going to happen, which is one of my favorites. And I forgot to pull up and print off the paper the turf race for that, which is one of my favorites to watch. But I think it's gonna be interesting. So, all right, let's do it. Let's build it. Or we'll build the trifecta and the superfecta, but we also have to pick our horse for this race. This is a win place show horse. We'll pick it straight up. Do you want me to go first? Because
Yeah,
I think
let's hear it.
you're not gonna be surprised at where I'm gonna go with this. Um, with when I looked early on with the American Promise, I felt like that was the horse to go for. But then it kind of talked me into the 7 a little bit. Journalism sitting there at 8. Went to school for journalism. I'll tell you that much. Uh, and but for me, I'm gonna take Sandman at 17, win, place, and show. Sandman at 17. I think that's where it is. I mean, play right
Sandman's
now
your
at
winner.
5. I think that's my winner. It's gonna be the 17. 17 will be the winner. I think if I'm building the trifecta and the superfecta, I will stay and go 17. I'll go 17, 8. I think 7 gets there. So 17, 8, 7 for the try. And if I did the super to add a fourth to that, I'll say publisher at 13. So 17, 8, 7, 13.
17, 8, 7, 13. I'm writing this down.
Now remember, this is for educational purposes. Please don't take us
Wait, you
for.
said 17, 8, 7, 13?
Yes, 17, 8, 7, 13.
Okay.
And if I have for my win place show, I will take Sandman at 17. So there's where I
Okay.
sit. I my thing is I will probably throw that in there, but I am also probably going to throw in something into American Promise, because Lucas, when you have that gut feeling about a horse, and when you see it for the first time, I've been following a little bit of it on Twitter as well, watching his runs. I just feel for D. Wayne Lucas right there.
Yeah. No, I mean the gut pick is my near and dear sacred to me in horse racing. Like I've I've been known to go with the gut picks, and they've been very bizarre. Some have been successful, some have been wildly unsuccessful. It's kind of
Yeah.
at the end of the day, you can listen to so many commentators, listen to so many so-called experts. You can, read everything you can possibly find online. But a lot of times it's your gut pick, like, oh, I knew it. That was the first source I thought of. I should have went with
It's,
that.
it's like what we went with last year with Mystic Dan. We were both feeling that Mystic Dan was going to be something, but all of us were just picking everybody else around it, and look what happens. Mystic wins the Derby, and I don't know.
Yeah, I got to give a shout out. My cousin Aaron, we were at the Derby 149 when Mage won. All day long, Aaron kept saying mage, 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 and I kept laughing, like just laughing at him, like, yeah, whatever, Aaron. I don't see that happening. And he was like all day long, like, I think Mage is gonna win this race, and lo and behold, Mage We
Holds
were
it out.
there live in person. They just, stormed down and took down the Kentucky Derby, and like that proves like that your gut pick horse, the horse that you zero in on,
Hmm.
just believe it. Let yourself believe it, no matter how bizarre it may seem.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's funny. I was listening to sports radio this afternoon, and the show I was listening to, they had a expert on. I don't recall their name, um, but the host is like, "Well, what do you think about the Derby? Who are you liking? Who are you picking to win?" And they said, I like journalism. Like I laughed, like, oh, of course you like journalism. You
Yeah.
pick the
Of course.
3-1 favorite on this like
Yeah.
international or this national sports talk show.
Yeah.
Just kind of it's just interesting how you could have, yeah, it's easy for people to say I pick journalism, and but then you have somebody comes on a show like, I really like Owen Almighty.
Yeah.
Just kind of it's interesting how like there's so many different opinions, but really it's all a crapshoot because it's a 20 horse field and anything can happen, and no horse is going to get the perfect trip, and it's just a matter of just what they make of the moment, and how the jockeys kind of make it happen.
Exactly. So so what do you think, Lucas? Who do you have in
Yeah,
this?
so my key horses, I'm keying in on Luxor Cafe. Um, I really believe in Luxor Cafe. I think this could be Japan's year. Really liking Luxor Cafe. I really like Grande. I really like Final Gambit. Just like something like I love the gray horse on a cloudy day. So if it is rainy, cloudy, Final Gambit and the Sandman will certainly have my attention. Sandman post 17, just like a weird little history thing again for me personally. And a great horse. I like the horse. I think it's gonna take a lot of money, which would kind of maybe force myself to kind of drift away from him a little bit, just because I like to play the
But play the difference.
yeah, kind of fade the horses that are taking all the money.
Hmm.
Um, I like Rodriguez. Journalism, obviously, like he'll be in my exotic bets. Like last year, I hit the exacta last year. I had all over top of gosh, who
Mystic Dan.
no, came in second. I the boy, that's
Pull it up.
that's that's funny. I like who was Sierra Leone. I was like I was drawing a total blank. I had all over Sierra Leone, and sure enough, Mr. Dan takes it. Sierra Leone comes in second. So kind of there's definitely ways to make money. Playing, working on, including the favorite or some of the favorites in your exacta bets. But yeah, final game at Sandman for Gray Horse on a cloudy day, just always worth a dollar at least.
Yeah.
Some spicy win candidates, some kind of long shots, that maybe not a lot of people aren't talking about that could just make a
Surprise.
weird, crazy run. Grande again, who I mentioned, Burnham Square, Chunk of Gold, and Coal Battle. Just kind of, I don't say I'm not saying I expect any of these outcomes, but
Hmm.
horses that could, if things get a little crazy, anything can happen. It's so unpredictable, the Derby every year. Um, and then a horse we haven't mentioned is also eligible. He's not technically in the field yet. He would need a defection. I think the deadline is I think is it Friday morning? The
Yes.
deadline for any
Yeah. Any
um,
defective, any
defections
pullouts.
from the but Baeza, the 21. If it's important to know if Baeza draws into the field, Flavian Pratt has chosen to ride Baeza, um, as opposed to Neoquos, the two who he is currently set to ride in the Kentucky Derby. Um, Baeza is a very popular horse for not even being in the field yet. Um,
Baeza is in the field. They have announced he is in the field. They do have
oh,
odds
who
for him.
defected?
I have no idea, but the odds are out for him. They are set at 50-1 odds.
This is like breaking news here. What?
I'm looking at this right now. This is according to FanDuel. They have all the odds out, which is updated
I
from.
saw. Okay, no, I saw they had odds posted for Baeza, which I was confused by, but he has not, as of right now, as of what I'm seeing, he is not.
Well, how
He is
how I'm
not
looking
in the
at
field.
the paperwork that I found. He's drawing in on this paperwork at 12-1. They have
Hmm.
FanDuel have him drawn at 51, but if he draws in, which is Friday is the cutoff, he would probably be set probably at that 50-1 odds probably
Yeah,
to start.
he's not. He is not currently in the field.
So
We would need a defection for that to happen. Um, but yeah, he would take a lot of money, in my opinion. He's out of the mayor Puka, who produced Mage, the 2023 winner, and 2024 starter Dornick, who obviously, one to the rail, didn't get there, didn't have his run. But Dornick did go on to win the Belmont, so that's kind of just something to keep in mind. Um, yeah, I think he's a very popular horse. A lot of
mhm.
people want him in the field. He could add another element, kind of that stalker pace, which tends to work really well in the Derby. Um, I really think the stalker mid pack runners will have the edge, especially if the pace is strong. So definitely a horse I would be interested in including in some bets if he were to draw into the field.
What's the horse that Jason Worth owns?
He is part owner on Flying Mohawk, the 11,
Okay.
he would need to improve dramatically in this race. Um, he ran second behind Final Gambit in the Jeff Ruby Stakes, so that was a good showing for him. But I think he's likely turf horse in the future.
Okay.
I know Jason Worthy came out like, if you don't like my horse, kiss my ass or something like that. He made some crazy comment last week. Um, but yeah, I think he's a bit overmatched here.
Okay. Okay. So what is your exacta and your trifecta, or your trifecta and your superfecta for this
Oh boy, that's
this 20
tough.
horse field that is the Kentucky Derby?
Let's do a trifecta. I will do Luxor Cafe over. Let's see. Oh, geez. I can do so many options here. Let's do Luxor Cafe over journalism, Burnham Square, and Final Gambit. That's I just pulled that one out of the old arse.
Okay. So you're going 7-8-3 in your try.
Gosh. Ah, let's go 7, 8, 10.
Ooh.
7, 8, 10, 17.
7, 8, 10, 17. I remember this is
I
for Ed.
it's
It's such an open
admittedly,
field.
I'm sorry, what I said 7,
You said 7,
7,
8.
8, 10, 17. Right,
Yeah.
okay.
Originally, we were going 7-8-3, and then you went 7-10-17.
Yeah, I so admittedly, in a race like the Kentucky Derby, I'm kind of I'm like a machine. Like I'm plugging all kinds of different, exactas, trifectas, superfectas, just playing around with a lot of different kind of, alternatives and just kind of a wild combinations I come up with. I think for me, like when I'm looking at, okay, tell me what you think the Derby's going to happen. Tell me think what's going to happen. I key in on a horse. Um, so if I keying in on a horse right now, I'm in Luxor Cafe, um, and then kind of like my bets kind of fall in shape around that, if that makes sense. Like I'm really keying in on Luxor Cafe at the top, and then I'm doing several exactas, tries, supers, just kind of with different combinations to try to, just to kind of cover all my bases, if that makes sense.
Right, right, absolutely. I mean, it's such an open field, big field in this Derby, and we had Rick Strike happen as just the absolute. Everybody had nobody had Rick Strike to win the Derby. I mean, it was a horse that came in out of nowhere to win
Yep,
the Derby.
80 to 1.
80 to 1, 80 to 1 odds, and wins the Derby. Anything could happen on the first.
Anything can happen.
Anything could happen on the first Saturday of May. So we'll just see what happens. It's going to be a fun time. It'll be a fun ride to the Triple Crown. It all begins on Saturday in the Twin.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and you know, and I hope we'll get together. We should be getting back together again for the Preakness, because this will be a hot topic when going into the Preakness as well as going into the Belmont Stakes.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. So, where can the fans and the listeners and the viewers find your information? Have you posted anything recently on Past the Wire, or are you just working on stuff right now on the off side?
Yeah, I haven't written anything for Past the Wire in a while yet, but yeah, lots of great writers on there. PastTheWire.com. They're keeping up with everything Derby related. Yeah, so I'm always sharing my opinions on Old Man Siggy on Instagram and X, and yeah.
He'll be dancing around when he hits that. He'll be hitting that superfecta in
Yeah.
pick as the Luxor Cafe, and then I'll be calling him when the 17 pulls off. Sandman pulls it out, and I'll be like, oh well, look who picked the horse. Look who picked the horse.
There you go.
So there you go. Well, Lucas, it has been a pleasure to have you on the podcast tonight. Again, thank you so much for coming on and giving somewhat of your expertise. I know you're not the
Yeah, I wouldn't say expert.
I wouldn't say expert, but you know more about this more in detail than I could ever explain it, and you make it interesting to to learn more about this sport and to teach the average Joe what's happening on this first Saturday of May.
I
So yeah.
appreciate that. Thanks for the kind words, and thanks for the opportunity to get on and talk about the ponies for a little while.
All right, and we will get to have you back on again for the Preakness, which will be what first the first Saturday in is it the first Saturday in June, or is that going to be later in?
I
Or is
honestly I
that?
should know the exact date, but I wonder.
But we'll have you back on again to preview the Preakness and the Preakness Stakes. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's on May 17th,
May
2 weeks
17th.
after.
Wow, that is a 2 week turnaround. It's a week
Yep.
turnaround. Wow,
Yep.
wow. Weekend after Mother's Day. Wow, surprising. So. All right, Lucas, thank you again. I appreciate it. And
Yep.
you've been watching and listening to a special edition of All Andy Alfred, the preview of the 151st running of the Kentucky Derby and the Kentucky Oaks. I hope you enjoyed the podcast tonight as well. Remember, you can follow both of us on Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter. It is at All Andy Alfred. And for Lucas, go plug your Twitter handle.
You have to say Old Man Siggy.
Old Man Ziggy, and we'll share the link on the description of the podcast as well. Anything that does change, please follow both of our Twitter accounts, Lucas's Instagram and the Facebook page for the show for updates on what's happening with the Kentucky Derby. The first Saturday in May is upon us. Get the mint juleps ready. I have one question. I do want before we go off the air. I have one question. I saw today the drink selection that you can get at the Derby,
Mm-hmm.
and the price of the mint julep, which is going to be $22 this year for the mint julep. I know might be a stupid question to ask. There's never any stupid questions, but what kind of pop do they serve there? Do they serve a soda or anything? Because all I see is beer, White Claw, and then Dasani water.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I think they have like different pop or any kind of pops that
okay, okay.
you know
I
are
was I
all
was
I
I
think
was
all
just
like
wondering.
bottled
Look at it.
bottled
All
pop.
I see is
Yeah.
liquor, and then Dasani water for $5.
Much like when you're there, you just drinking mint juleps and beer all day. What's wrong with
That's all
that?
you do, and then you sober. You try to
You
hydrate
sober
yourself
up
with.
overnight and you do it all again the next day.
Exactly. That sounds like a fun time. So,
This is
again, this is Andy Alfred saying I'm pulling for you. We're all in this together, the game of life. Enjoy the race on Friday and Saturday right here for the 151st running of the Kentucky Derby and the Kentucky Oaks.